Hello everyone and welcome back to World of Warplanes. This time we'll be taking a look at the Tier 4 British heavy fighter, the Blenheim F. I know you guys pronounce it differently, but that's how I pronounce it. You're going to have to live with it. Rant over. So, the Blenheim F. What is to know about it? Well, let's first check the history of the plane and then go from there. So, the plane was a modification of the Blenheim bomber into a long-range fighter or even a night fighter. A total of 60 aircraft were modified. So it did exist, but not in very large quantities, at least in the heavy fighter slash night fighter variant. There were other versions of the plane that existed, but the F version is what we have in the game currently. You'd also have one of the bomber variants as a Tier 3 bomber, the Blenheim 4E, but we have the Blenheim F as a heavy fighter. So, anywho, what are the stats of the plane? Well, you can also look at them right here. I'll let you guys look at them if you want. I really don't care to look through these stats. I care more about how it feels rather than what the raw stats tell me. The raw stats are basically just an indication of what you could potentially do with the plane or how it could potentially play. It doesn't actually tell you if it is at all good at what they say it does. So anyway, first thing, auto cannon armament effective at medium range. The range of the guns, very low range, under 1,400 feet. But you do have some that are effective at 2,100 feet. So that begs the question, what do we actually get? You get a total of 3 guns. You get 2 massive 20 mils right in the front right there, and I don't know if that's supposed to be the .303 Browning Mark II machine gun. It does say it's wing mounted, so is it actually on the wing? Yes, okay, the gun is right there. That's weird. That is really weird. So you have these 2 cannons right in the front, and you have a random machine gun on the wing. Like, what? But anyway, the 20 mils are the ones that are longer range, and also you can all your guns are more effective at closer. The .303 Browning machine gun is closer at or more effective at the closer range, but at least it's not the other way around where you only have 1 gun that's effective at longer range and 2 that are closer at or for close range. So anyway, that's that. You have good survivability, but large dimensions and vulnerable engines. Also, one more thing about this, these are just like the highest, furthest optimum distance. You actually really want to stay a little bit closer. You'll get your shots more accurate if you're a little bit closer. But anyway, good survivability, but large dimensions and vulnerable engine. You are a heavy fighter, it's kind of expected, right? Good airspeed, long-lasting boost. You're a heavy fighter, you kind of expect it. Ineffective at maneuvering combat, self-explanatory. Effective in mid-altitude combat and in destroying small amounts of ground targets. Yeah. So there's actually 2 points in this one. First, you're effective at mid-altitude combat. Why am I going to stress this? You know I'm going to start stressing this. But why? Because you are not a high-altitude flyer. Let's think about that for a minute. You are not a high-altitude heavy fighter. As someone who absolutely loved the German heavy fighter line, that was the first line I went down. It was absolutely glorious. The 110B at Tier 4 was amazing. and you had no limits to what you could do with your engine and your altitude. This plane, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot play this plane like the German heavy fighter. In fact, the whole British line, you cannot play it like the German heavies. And it's very important that you realize it. They do not have good high altitude. You cannot take out bombers easily. You have to work incredibly hard to get up there, to the point where it's not worth it to go after bombers, especially if they're human controlled. If they're AI controlled, then maybe. But even that is a maybe. I don't think this plane has very good altitude performance at all. It is not good. If you are not in your optimum altitude, this thing stalls and moves like a slug so easily. So often will you get screwed up because of that. You have to play it a little bit lower. You can still use boom and zoom, but you're not going to be using altitude to your advantage for boom and zoom. You're going to do your horizontal boom and zoom, which is kind of wonky, but once you get used to it, it's not bad. It's just frustrating because I want to play this plane like a German heavy, but you just can't. It is not a German heavy. You cannot use its altitude the same way that you could if you were a German heavy. Sorry I'm stressing this so much, but it's really screwed me up for a long time on this plane, until I accepted the fact that I could not make it work. If you don't believe me that this thing does not have good altitude performance, I will link a video in the description. It's one of my videos, but I sent it off to Shrike Gaming, or Zem, and he did a video on it. It was a video where I was playing this plane, but it was more so for Catechus's sake, because he had a very good battle in his KI-43-1. But regardless, I was playing the Blenheim during that battle, and you can see exactly where I make my mistake. It was after Squall Line, and I thought it would be a good idea to attack the bomber formation, and this plane died. I died. I could not gain enough altitude. I kept stalling, and I was moving like a slug just to attack the bomber formations. That's just the bomber formations, and I could not get it to work. And heavy fighters came over and shot me down in the sky instantly. You cannot fly this plane at high altitudes. Sorry I'm stressing that so much, but it messed me up for a long time, and the quicker you learn that it's not high altitude, the better you'll do in this plane. Alright, the second part of that is effective in destroying small amounts of ground targets, and I'm going to link that into can carry powerful bombs. And that's because you actually have 4 250-pound bombs, and that is awesome. That really is awesome. They do 2,200 damage apiece with a burst radius of 197 feet. That is awesome. That is really good. And that's just kind of one of the specialities of the British line, right? You have these ordnance, and so if you play this plane where you go in, you dump your ordnance payload on a sector, like, you're going to do significant damage to the ground targets in that sector, and then you have the guns to deal with the low-flying planes. Just don't go after the high-altitude stuff. We already went over that. And you can kick butt. And when you're in optimal altitude, you have very decent airspeed, and so you can make that work very well. And the last thing, but again, you only have 20s and a .303 machine gun, so you're not a ground pounder. You are a bomber, right? You drop your bombs on a sector, and then you kill other heavy fighters, attack aircraft, and other low-flying planes. That's where this plane excels. And because most planes fly pretty slow at this tier anyway, you don't really have an issue with not hitting targets easily because they're maneuvering too much. They're too slow to really maneuver out of the way. So if you're playing it well, you can get really nice battle scores. And with that, that's enough talking about what Wargaming thinks about the plane. Let's go over what I would go what I would focus on when upgrading this. One other thing that they did not mention, you actually do have a tail gunner. It's not really a tail gunner, it's more like a rear turret. So here's your turret right here. You have two .303 machine guns, and I'm just curious, are they just as good as this machine gun? No, they're actually better than your forward firing machine gun. Yeah, much better range, more damage per second. Field of fire, you don't have to worry about that in this one. Gun elevation, gun depression, but yeah, that's impressive. So these .303s are better than your wing-mounted 303. So these are very nice guns. They work very well for Tier 4. So that's just one thing I want to mention because it is an extra feature of this plane, which is nice. And so the route I would take would probably be the guns first, then the bombs, then the tail gunner, and then the engine. That's the route I would go, in that order. And then go for the bow fighter, which is also an amazing plane. But guns, bombs, rear gunner, engine. Or maybe guns, rear gunner, bombs, engine. Either one of those would work. But you want to do this one first, this one last, in my opinion. So yes, that is what that is. Equipment modules, improved reflector sight, accuracy, accuracy, accuracy. And then with this, I would probably go with either turret stabilization or the improved aircraft polish. I do like that a lot, but I tried convincing Slay to put it on some of his planes, and he said the effect was too great. It made him slam into the ground too often, so he actually took it off. But for me, I like that extra speed. But just note, you can't really get the same amount of altitude that you can in German planes, because we already established that. And so you can't really get as much of an effect out of it as you would if you were in a German plane. But it is 25% acceleration and dive. That is significant. That is really significant. So, and on top of that, you get a little bit extra max speed. So I'd put that one on there over the turret stabilization, in my opinion. But you know, again, do what you want. That's the great thing about these equipment modules, is they're very customizable. Do what you want. And then the last thing I would do would be reinforced airframe to give extra hit points. So that's just the setup I would do. Paint shop, there is none, unfortunately. No free paint schemes, that is. And emblems, can't do any beta stickers, unfortunately. And with pilot skills, Marksman 1, Marksman 2, and maybe Demolition Expert. Alternatively, you can do Engine Guru 1 and 2 and Demolition Expert, but I always do Marksman 1 and 2. And then these skills, this one is actually not too bad. It reduces damage from enemy aircraft which the gunner is firing at by 30%, and because you have a gunner that can shoot basically anywhere, even forward firing, like your rear turret can even fire forward sometimes, like if you have the right angle. This actually is a very useful skill. So I would suggest doing that one, and then maybe these two. So, and if you do get this one, just make sure you have turret stabilization on your plane, so you get the maximum amount of effect that you can from this plane and from this skill. With that, I'm pretty sure I've wrapped it up pretty well. Let's jump into some gameplay so I can prove to you, don't make this a high altitude flyer. If you want high altitude heavy fighters, do the German line. This is not one. Alright everyone, welcome back to the gameplay section. So we are flying on whatever this map is called. I don't even care. I don't have it memorized. But yes, things to keep in mind. If you start out with altitude, you can kind of use that to your advantage. But once you use up your altitude, don't try to regain altitude. It's very, very hard in this plane to regain altitude once you've lost it. That's just something that took me a while to learn, but once you accept that fact, you're pretty good, pretty golden. It just, I don't know, it struggles to gain altitude. I don't get it, but whatever. So I have 4 250-pound bombs. Those are very, very nice bombs. Those are very hard hitting. So I'm going to go to the military base first, drop my payload, and then take out the heavy fighters. Although maybe I'll take out the heavy fighters first. We'll see. Depends on what I do in this replay. Either choice is pretty decent in my opinion. But I want to shoot down. I want to destroy that middle target with these bombs because that will give us the greatest amount of influence points. So I'm going to go for the attacker or the heavy fighters first because I already have the altitude gained up. As you can see, you can chew through the heavy fighters pretty quickly, but you always do best when you're on their tail. So now we're on the tail. Now we'll chew them up very quickly. Notice how quickly I can. The guns really are very nice. They don't overheat very quickly either, which really does help a lot. AO 192, we actually took it. We actually took the sector pretty quickly, so I didn't even have to drop my bombs. I'll take it. Not a bad situation. But if I was going to drop my bombs there, like if I didn't have support like I did in that situation, I would have just dropped all 4 bombs in the center, and that center objective with a lot of armored targets. I'd probably drop 3 of them and then drop the last bomb if I needed to. I'm going to drop 1 bomb per light target if I have to, but there's a plane right in front of me, so I'm not going to ignore the opportunity. I'm not going to get so engrossed in dropping bombs that I fail to shoot down targets in front of my face. So I have 3 bombs left. You know, I'm not really planning on going to any other sector right now. So there's a guy kind of ignoring me because he wants to be a ground pounder because, you know, light fighters are totally supposed to be ground pounders. It's absolutely their role. I thought everyone knew this. If you didn't sense the sarcasm, sorry. KI 29 or something, 27, whatever, he died. It doesn't really matter what he was because he's dead now. FW 159, he's also dead. Goodbye. And as you can see, the planes are very slow at this tier, and so it's very easy for you to shoot them down. Alright, here I'm trying to gain altitude in this plane to kill a bomber. I'm still in the white. I'm not in my yellow yet, so I can still gain altitude relatively easily. So it does allow me to get up to this bot bomber, but notice as soon as I get into the yellow, my speed kind of dies immediately. I'm already in the yellow and already starting to stall here, and that's... If you're in the white, you're fine, but as soon as you get into this yellow zone, you turn into a dog, like an absolute dog. It's a real nightmare. So, as long as you have boost, you're pretty good, but even at this altitude, it's not where it performs, so I don't advise you to stay in the yellow zone, which is rare, because in most planes you're like, okay, I'm in the yellow zone, I'll still be fine. No, not this plane. If you're in the yellow zone, you are too high. Get back down into the white zone. So we get back into the white zone, which is played well. Flipping around, and let's see what we can find. He's focusing on one of my guys, so he's going to be a super easy target. Even though he's flipping around, once I get close to him, he'll be completely dead. There's nothing he can do. I am running standard ammo in this battle, as you can tell in the bottom left. Going for this A5M. He's dead because someone else was shooting at him. Got a couple shots on him, but he came by too fast. This guy will be an easy kill because he's just down right there. McGuire medal is already in the bag, and the Guardian badge. We have 10 kills already, not too shabby. So they shut him down. Nice job, guys. Now, it's just, I don't want to take that last sector. If I was concerned about my win rate, then maybe I would, but I don't really care that much. I'd rather have nice scores than have crazy win rate. So I'm going to defend this military base instead. I want them to hang on to that last sector so we don't win by superiority. I don't like those battles. I hate winning by superiority. It cuts the battle too short, in my opinion. Especially when I'm trying to get daily doubles. And I'm pretty sure in this battle, I was still trying to get my daily double, which is pretty sad because, well, I am now at the tier 7, almost at the tier 8. So this is kind of an old replay. There's a 110C6. It's kind of a cool plane. I loved it during beta. The guns were very hard hitting, but I'd say that the 110B is actually a little bit better. The 110C6 is very, very strong in head-on combat, more so than the 110B, but otherwise the 110B is better in almost every other regard, in my opinion. So, if it's still the same as it was, 5 years ago when I played it. FW57, super easy target, thing's massive and very slow compared to tier 4. So, we're going to shoot him down as well. Goodbye. Now we have Winged Legend, and a bomber is actually below us. That does not happen very often in this plane. But, it is a bot. You can deal with the bot bombers relatively easily. It's when you start having to deal with human-controlled bombers or trying to deal with bombers without any boost. That's an issue as well. Also, I kind of want to mention, this plane has a very narrow range in terms of speed. Like, when you get to 280, you're already in the yellow for speed. But if you drop to 200, you're in the yellow for too slow. So it's like, it's really weird. You have to make sure you keep an eye on your speed. It's a very narrow range compared to other planes. Like, very narrow. Which is kind of weird, but it's because of that it makes it really hard to do well at high altitude. And it's not where you belong. You just don't go high altitude. I feel like I've stressed that a lot this review, but this is not a high altitude heavy fighter. If you want high altitude at tier 4, play the 110C6 or the 110B. 110C6 is coming back in again, so he's just going to die, like, really easily. There he goes. Goodbye. You are dead, sir. There's an air defense plane, so he's going to die very quickly too. He is dead. And I think the audio is starting to screw up. I'm sorry about that. At least the in-game audio. But regardless, almost 19,000 personal points. Again, I did not get 20,000 personal points like I tried to. And if I went back to this plane, I probably could. But it did take me quite a while to figure out exactly how to play this plane because I was trying so hard to use it as a high altitude boom and zoom, and you just can't in this plane. It just does not work. And I had a hard time embracing the fact that you have a lot of ordnance on your heavy fighter as well. And that just kind of screwed me up because I'm like, I don't want to be focusing on destroying bombs if I'm supposed to be so high up. Well, this plane is not supposed to be very high up, and so it allows you to use your bombs a lot more effectively. I didn't really use them that battle, but regardless, just trust me, they are very good bombs. You got a whole bunch of medals. You can look at them at your own will and your own desire. In this battle, I was not flying with a full skilled pilot and gunner, so that was basically a straight out of the package gunner. With that, I think I am about done. Please leave a comment down below what you think about this Blenheim F. Yes, I know I pronounced it wrong, but it is the Blenheim. And yes, have a great day. Please leave comments, though. I love reading comments. Have a great day.